It was the kind of cold that cut through skin and settled deep in the bones. The evening wind howled through the city streets as commuters rushed into the crowded train station, their footsteps echoing against the concrete walls. Among them was Emily Carter, a young woman in her late 20s, clutching her thin jacket tighter around her as she stood in line at the ticket counter. Her eyes were tired, her face pale with worry, and in her worn-out handbag, she carried exactly $10, the last of what she had. Emily hadn't always lived this way. A few months ago, she had a decent job at a small publishing company, a cozy apartment, and hope for the future. But then the company shut down without warning. She had tried everything since, interviews, odd jobs, even babysitting, but nothing seemed to stick. Rent was overdue, her phone had been disconnected, and tonight, she had exactly enough money for one train ride to the city's edge, where a friend had offered her a couch for the week. As she approached the counter, she heard a man arguing softly nearby. "Please, just one ticket. I lost my wallet. I'll come back and pay tomorrow. I just need to get home." The clerk shook his head. "Sorry, sir. Policy is policy. No cash, no ride." Emily turned slightly to look. The man looked about 35, dressed in a plain coat, hair a bit messy from the wind. His eyes were frantic, darting between the clerk and the growing line behind him. People were already mumbling complaints. She didn't know why she stepped forward. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was compassion. Or maybe, just maybe, she remembered how it felt to be invisible in a crowd. "Here," she said softly, placing her $10 bill on the counter. "It's enough for one ticket, right?" The man turned to her in shock. "Miss, no, I couldn't possibly." She forced a smile. "Just pay it forward someday." He stared at her, speechless, before whispering a quiet, "Thank you." He took the ticket, nodded respectfully, and disappeared into the crowd. Emily turned away before the tears welled up. She walked out of the station, the icy wind biting her skin. She didn't know what she would do now. No train, no home tonight. But strangely, she felt lighter. Kindness has a way of doing that. That night, she sat on a bench outside a closed bakery, wrapping herself in her thin coat and hugging her knees for warmth. The city never really sleeps, but in those long, cold hours, it felt like it had forgotten her entirely. The next morning, she woke to the sound of footsteps and a gentle voice. "Miss Carter?" She blinked, rubbing her eyes. A tall man in a crisp suit stood in front of her, holding a cup of hot coffee and a bag of breakfast pastries. Behind him was a sleek black car. "I hope you don't mind. I've been looking for you." She sat up, confused. "Do I know you?" He smiled. "Not really. But you lent me $10 yesterday at the station." Her heart skipped. "You were that guy?" He nodded. "I was dressed down. I had just flown in from a business trip and was pickpocketed on my way into the city. No ID, no money, no phone. You were the only person who stopped. The only person who saw me as more than just a nuisance." She was still blinking, stunned. "But, how did you find me?" "I asked the clerk for the security footage," he said simply. "And I have a few connections. My name is Daniel Weston. I run Weston Enterprises." Her eyes widened. Weston Enterprises was everywhere: real estate, tech, even publishing. She'd read articles about him. She thought he was just another untouchable billionaire with perfect suits and private jets. I didn't know." He handed her the coffee. "I didn't expect you to. But I make it a point never to forget kindness. So here's the thing, I run a community outreach program for people rebuilding their lives. But more than that, we need people like you at our company. People with heart. If you're open to it, I'd like to offer you a job." Emily sat frozen, the warmth of the coffee seeping into her fingers. "A job?" Daniel smiled. "It's an entry-level position, but it's stable. Decent pay. And I'll make sure there's housing support while you get back on your feet." Tears streamed down her cheeks. She tried to speak, but only a choked "thank you" escaped her lips. Over the next weeks, everything changed. Emily moved into a small company-supported apartment. She started her job in administration, filing, assisting with reports, answering calls. She was quiet, dependable, and focused. For the first time in months, she woke up with a purpose. Daniel checked in regularly, often offering advice or simply sitting down with her during lunch. As months passed, her confidence grew. She began sharing ideas, organizing small charity events, and eventually leading projects. Daniel noticed her growth and promoted her. But what truly touched everyone was that Emily never forgot where she came from. On weekends, she volunteered at shelters, and every month, she'd quietly leave envelopes of cash at the local train station for those in need, each one marked with a simple note. "Just pay it forward someday." Years later, Emily stood at the head of the very outreach department Daniel once mentioned. She had helped dozens of people find jobs, homes, and second chances. At a company gala, Daniel took the stage. "Years ago," he began, "I was stranded in a city of millions, and only one person stopped to help. She gave me her last $10, not knowing who I was, not asking for anything in return. That $10 changed my life. Not because I needed the money, but because it reminded me of the kind of people we should all strive to be. Kind. Brave. Compassionate." He looked toward Emily, standing near the stage in a navy blue dress, beaming with pride and humility. "That woman now leads one of the most powerful arms of this company. And I couldn't be prouder." The crowd erupted in applause, but Emily's eyes were filled with tears. Not because of the recognition, but because she remembered that night, alone, cold, and unsure, when all she had was $10 and hope in her heart. And it turned out, that was enough. Moral of the story. Even your smallest act of kindness can become someone's turning point, and your own miracle in disguise. Always choose compassion. You never know whose life you're changing, or who might change yours.